I've been waiting. Sunshine, while you playing with my head on the time. You go way out of line.
Hey, it's your girl Serene. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're gonna discuss what's happened so far in the Ahmaud Arbery trial, which is Travis McMichael, Gregory McMichael, and William Bryan versus Georgia. So the second day we had a investigator, Miss Ramos, give her testimony, and basically she the one that collected the evidence, sketched the scene, question, you know, people to see who all witnessed it, what they witnessed and all of that. It's basically what she did. The next witness was a ex-officer. He's no longer an officer. Ricky Minichi. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong. He was the original officer to get to the scene first. And basically, they showed his dash cam and body cam of him arriving on the scene. I guess making sure he was safe or whatever, officer safety first. Then, and once that was done, he taped off the scene, but he never tried to render any aid to Ahmaud Arbery. And in the video, you even see him move his leg, take his last breath and everything. I believe it was his last breath. He never tries to render aid at all. Instead, he just starts talking to the McMichaels, who was still on the scene. Yeah, he proceeded to talk to the McMichaels while they gave their statement. And he also spoke with William Bryan also. They actually asked him on the stand why he never rendered any aid to Ahmaud Arbery, and his answer was he didn't have any gloves. That's what his answer was as an officer of the law. But he did talk to them, and of course they went with the same story they've been giving throughout the trial, that they saw Ahmaud Arbery hauling ass down the street, so they assume he did something wrong and pursued and chasing him. Mr. William Bryan, he even stated that he almost felt like he was gonna crash through his windshield, and I quote, from trying to chase the Joker down, end quote. Yep, real citizens. Anywho, the next witness was Adam Tyler Jackson, who was also an officer. And if you hear my other niece, excuse her too. They both so Adam Tyler Jackson, he testified next. He's an officer also. He heard the fires shot across his radio from the officers, and he headed in that direction. He spoke to the neighbor Diego Perez, who promised him that he would give him a USB of the video he recorded from his home video. So they spoke with them about that, and that was that day. Then on 9th, we had the patrol officer, Jeff Brandeberry. He interviewed Gregory McMichael. He basically sat down with him and just basically had a basic conversation like they was two old friends about what happened. And basically Gregory McMichael told his story again, except for this time he's telling him in a more, I guess you could say, casual manner at this point. And the reason it matters that I'm categorizing it like that is because on the video, everyone is completely ignoring this deceased man laying on the ground. But they are comforting the McMichaels, telling them everything's going to be okay. They're going to be all right. It's all right. Literally, they're gathered around the McMichaels, consoling them. And in the long background, you see this body laying on the ground with a sheet covered over it. This is what's happening. Anywho, as he was questioning him, he kept being interrupted. It's in his notes too. It's also on the video, the body cams. They kept interrupting him, not even as if they was doing a investigation. Period. Whatever the McMichaels was telling them, that's what they were rolling with. Period. During the testimony of this officer, this is when the prosecution and the defense end up going back and forth in arguments, and they had to have the jury stepped out. The defense did not want the body cams actually shown because all three defense is speaking on these body cams. And apparently it's a law, I believe it's called the Brady law. And I'm not a law professor, so excuse me if I'm saying that wrong. I have it in my notes somewhere on here. When I see it, I'll let you know. But basically, I do know the law states that they can read the transcripts from when they're talking to that specific person, but not play the video where it shows all three defendants, because one may be saying something against the other one in the video. And they can't question the other one because that's not who's testifying at that moment. So they can only do that when they're questioning that specific person so that they can confront them about what they're saying. If you understand what I'm saying. So they all agreed to do the transcripts. So they had the officers read the transcripts from the specific interviews they did with each one of them, one by one. Then they brought in the investigator Parker, who read his interview with Gregory McMichael. That he actually went and inspected the property that Gregory McMichael was telling him was burglarized. They went and looked at it in the dark at nighttime, and he was letting us know that you can't see into the house at nighttime, and there was nothing that was messed up, destroyed, or taken from the property. The owner even agreed it was nothing taken from his property, that he never stole anything from the property at all. So that's pretty much what that officer went through. So the next person we have after that day, let me see, y'all, because these are my notes. Okay, so that's that day. So the next day, we got Sergeant Roderick Nohilly. Now, he is also the sergeant of the Glenn County Police. He's like the head sergeant. He actually stated he does not have a personal... Excuse my niece and nephews, people. Y'all might hear them in the background, so y'all gonna have to excuse that. So he stated he knew who Gregory McMichael was when he worked for the DA office as an investigator police, but he did not have a personal relationship with him at all. So the sergeant asked during their interview, one of the questions he asked Gregory McMichael was, did he know who owned the house that he was claiming was burglarized? That he's telling them is burglarized. He told him no. He never met the man and didn't know the man at all. That's what he said. That he never met the man and didn't know the man. That's what he told him in his interview. He also proceeded to tell the sergeant that he needed to find out what Ahmaud Arbery done because he know he had to have done something. He didn't know what, but it was something. And he wanted him to go investigate it and figure out what it was. He also, on cross-examination, it came out that Gregory McMichael also told him that if his son had not shot Ahmaud Arbery, his quote is, he was going to bust a cap in his ass, end quote. That's what he told him. Again, real good citizens, right? No. They also, the defense team, when they was cross-examining this sergeant, I think they're trying to use the police officers that's being called to the stand as self-defense experts. And this is a perfect example on what I mean. On cross-examination, when they was questioning the sergeant, he asked the sergeant that if a suspect was not complying, would he pull out his gun and shoot him? The sergeant said no. He said no. He said, so if you was chasing a suspect and he wasn't obeying, you wouldn't pull out your gun and shoot him. He said no, not necessarily. He said, what if he attacked you and you were fighting with the suspect, would you shoot him? He said it depended on how they was fighting and how he was attacked. He would never outright say, yeah, I shoot him. Which I find just goes to the conscience of the officer. I think they picked the wrong one to ask this question to. They might have got a different answer if they would have asked the earlier officers that testified. But this sergeant, he wasn't going for it. He even asked him if he got to put his hand on your gun and try to take your gun from you. Would you pull it out and shoot him? And he said, maybe so. Maybe so. He still wouldn't outright just say yes. So the next person to testify was Matt Albenzi. He's a neighbor on the street. He was the one that called the police the day of the shooting. When Ahmaud Arbery showed up to the property that day, he was the original police call. He called the police to let them know that it was a trespasser was on the property again. And once he made the call, he was standing there and behind a bush. He wasn't standing out in the open and making a call. He was standing behind a bush making a call. After he made the call and Ahmaud Arbery turned around and ran back out the house and ran on back down the street. You see him in the video come out from behind the bush to the street. And you see him do a hand gesture. I don't know what the hand gesture meant, but it was something like this towards the McMichaels. Because at that point, the McMichaels was coming out of their driveway in the truck. And he went back in his house. He said a few minutes later, he heard gunshots. He came out and he saw Ahmaud Arbery laying dead in the street. And he turned around and went back in his house. He also expressed his sympathy that he feel awful about what happened. And he wondered if he never would have called the police if this would have happened. So he said that the incident weighs very heavy on his heart. That's his exact quote that he used. The next person to testify was a Kelly Parr, who was also a neighbor who lived directly across the street from the home that's under construction with 3 daughters. And she said she had saw Mr. Arbery stop there before at the construction home. And she said she figured he wasn't one of the construction workers that was working on the home, but she didn't want to automatically assume the worst. So she said, hey, I'm not going to be racist like that and assume he here to commit a crime. And she said she just drove on, kept going about her day. She didn't think nothing else about it and worry nothing else about it. Now, for a side note on that, the way she worded it, I have a feeling that she understood that the rest of her neighbors were racial profiling Mr. Arbery, and that's why she made the statement she made. The next person to testify from there was another officer, and this officer, he interviewed William Bryan. He also was the officer that called Miss Ahmaud's Arbery mother and told her that her son was killed during a home invasion. Is basically what he did. So that's what he testified to. But he said that Mr. Bryan admitted to this officer that he hit Ahmaud Arbery with his truck. That he forced him into a ditch trying to hit him with his truck. And he tried to hit him with his truck, I think, 3 times total. According to the testimony he gave this officer. The next person that took the stand was the 911 operator that took the call that Travis McMichael made when he saw, Ahmaud Arbery coming from the house on February 11th in the evening time. He was saying he saw flashlights on in the house, so he drove past, turned around to go past House C. Then he saw Ahmaud Arbery come out of there running. So he went back to the house to get his gun to come back down there to see where he went, but nobody saw him. Nobody found him. The police ended up coming out there that night, which I'm going to get to in a minute because that's all on tape and we got to see it. But after that, the next person, who I think is one of the most important people, Mr. English, Larry English, testified. And his testimony was in a deposition. It was done on tape because of health problems. He could not actually physically show up to court. So his deposition was done on tape. And they played it for the jury to listen. They played the original question from the prosecutor and the cross-examination of him from the defense team. And, of course, examination from the prosecution. So, anywho, to make a long story short, Larry English basically said yes, he was bothered by everybody. Let's emphasize. Everybody that was stopping by his property. They showed the videos he sent the police officers. In the videos, you see a white couple going through his house. You see Ahmaud Arbery going through his house. You see little children going through his house. You see different neighbors going through this construction site house. Now, he said he didn't really mind the daytime lookers because he's retired at the moment, but he's actually a general contractor himself. So he knows that people visit construction sites all the time. It's not abnormal, he said. He said it's a very common thing that happens in construction. Which is funny because I didn't know that myself. But anywho, excuse me, y'all. I don't know why my nose itchy, but anywho. He said it didn't so much bother him, the ones that came in the daytime. But the ones that came at night, which would have been one of the white couples and Mr. Arbery, he did not like them coming at night for sure. That bothered him. He also stated that his original purpose of putting the cameras up there was because his next door neighbor to him informed him that some teenagers were gathering together on his dock that's connected to the lake. And since it was not really sturdily put there, it was kind of just floating. He didn't want anyone to get hurt back there, so he thought Mr. English should know. So that was why he put cameras on the home. He also stated that he only wanted the police to identify, ask why, and then asked him not to come back to the property. He never wanted him arrested. He never wanted him in any type of trouble. He just wanted him to be warned to stay off the property. That's all he said he wanted. He emphasized that. Even when the defense that questioned him kept saying the word, you wanted him gone, Mr. English stopped him and said, no, I do not like the way you are saying that. I do not like the word you are using. When the defense asked him what word, he said, you keep saying gone. I did not want him gone. I just wanted him to be stopped coming on the property. I didn't want him gone. He emphasized that. He also discussed the fact that him and his family was threatened after the shooting. They were threatening. Some of them even told him if he moved in that house to try to live in it, they would kill him. He no longer faces that threat, but in the beginning that was a threat. But once the story of what really happened came out, they pretty much stopped threatening him and his family, and they now can live in what he is calling his dream home. More importantly, let's get to the goody-goody. He only met Travis McMichael one time. He said he saw him and his son in the backyard walking across the yards to by the lake. They spoke, talked to maybe 10-15 minutes at the most, and that was it. Never had no other interaction with Travis McMichael. Gregory McMichael, only met him one time. Gregory McMichael came down to his house, introduced himself. 2 minutes into the conversation, his wife came down. He introduced his wife to him. They talked casually about different little things. None of what he was going through or what was going on with his camera. None of that. Just normal little simple conversation. And that was it. As far as his conversation was Gregory McMichael. And that's as far as he knew him. Now, you remember earlier I told you, Mr. McMichael, Gregory McMichael claimed he didn't know who he was at all. Anywho, the only neighbor he did discuss with what was going on camera was the neighbor Diego. Now, he had posted the videos on the Facebook community tab for Satilla Shores. Now, he was trying to get the guy identified to find out if he lived in the area or what. Because every time he called the police on anybody, because he called the police on everybody he saw came up on his camera. It wasn't just Ahmaud. He called it on the white couple. He didn't call it on the kids. Let me put it that way. He called it on the adults, but never the kids. That's what he did. He said when the police did come to investigate, he wasn't upset or frustrated with them. He felt they did an excellent job and did what they needed to do. He wasn't frustrated with the progress the police was making or anything, because they was coming, they was investigating and all of that. He also said that Mr. Diego reached out to him after seeing the video on the Facebook tab to let him know, since I'm across the street from you, if you call and let me know, maybe I can run over there to check it out and see what's going on for you to try to get it, stopped. So now this is, to me, this is an important detail, because this right here is how things fly through the neighborhood. And I think Mr. Diego played a big part on it flying through the neighborhood. Even though the video is up on the Facebook community tab for everybody to see, he's the only one that Mr. English is actually having conversations with. Now, Mr. English said he texted him. He texted him back. He said he called him one other time, and that was it. He never called him any other time. So the only person that Mr. English was actually, I guess you could say, bugging about people being on his property was the police. He didn't feel the need to bug or continuously talk to Mr. Diego about it. He admitted when on cross-examination that he was very scared about them coming there at night, because he has small children himself, and sometimes his family come with him. They stay on a camper in the backyard of the home that's under construction. He got 2 campers back there. Sometimes they stay in the campers, and he was nervous that this guy could show up while they was there or his kids was there, and The defense felt talking about some, well, if your 16-year-old daughter was here by herself, you would be worried that that Ahmaud Arbery may come at night while she's there. And he's like, yeah. See, this, we all know what that is, right? We all, yeah. Why your 16-year-old daughter stand in a camper by herself anywhere? I don't care if that camper was behind a police station. Why is she by herself at 16? Anywho, so he was saying, yeah, he was scared. He was scared about stuff like that. But he wasn't too scared because when he was redirected, the prosecution asked him after the incidents, he witnessed the incidents on camera, did you continue to go down there with your family? And he stated, yes, he did. He continued bringing his family down there even after the incidents was happening on the video camera of his, you know, thingy-jiggy. Not thingy-jiggy. But witnessing them come on his video cameras, he still was bringing the family down after this was happening. One thing I have discovered through this trial that I did not know in the beginning of this trial is the incidents of Ahmaud Arbery coming on the property is a span of 4 months. And in his 4 months, he was caught on camera going into this property 4 times. 4 times. 4 times. See that? 4 times. From November, December, January, and then February when he was killed. 4 times in 4 months. Yeah. Mr. William Bryan, here's my thoughts here. I feel like this is the age-old, same old, if he's black and male, he gotta be a criminal. He gotta be wrong in some type of way. He has to be on drugs, or he has to be trying to rob, steal, or kill. It be right in any kind of way. And I think that's okay. So the next witness we have is Officer Rash. And Officer Rash is the police officer that Mr. English was communicating with. He even had his personal phone number, where he, the next officer, the B, to testify was Officer Rash. And this is the officer that Mr. English mostly dealt with. He even had his personal phone number, cell phone number. That's who he sent the videos to and who he talked to. Now, Officer Rash, he had showed up to investigate, and he said Mr. English told him he only wanted to stop the guy from coming back to the house. He wanted him warned to stay off the property. That was his exact wishes, that he wanted for the Ahmaud Arbery to stop coming on his property. He also stated that so after the procedure would have been after they warned him to stop trespassing. If he would have trespassed again, then it would have been up to Mr. English whether or not he want to press charges for the trespass. So the thing is, nothing major was happening at all. The officer knew that Mr. English had some things stolen from him, and at the time he believed it was stolen from him off his property. But Mr. English later on discovered it was not taken from the property. It was taken between the different other locations. He had the boat. He was taking the boat to different other locations, but he hadn't realized the theft happened and occurred until he got the boat down there to Statilla Shores. That's when he discovered the thievery, but that's not where the thievery happened. But Mr. English never went through letting Mr. Diego know that, or the police officer that. But I'm going to say this, to be fair. I don't think Mr. English realized how much traction and, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think he understood how serious the situation was becoming in the neighbors' minds. Let's put it that way. And to emphasize that, what I'm talking about, they showed the body cam of when Officer Rash, a few other officers, came to investigate the night Travis McMichael called the police to report seeing Mr. Arbery. Even though at the time that's not who he knew he was. Anywho, literally you see Gregory McMichael informing police officer Rash that his son had his gun and was out looking for Ahmaud Arbery that night. The other officers was investigating the property, the neighbors' properties. Everyone spread out looking for Ahmaud Arbery at this time. In the video, you see them, talking and discussing how they trying to get this black boy, that's what they kept calling him, black boy, throughout the whole video. They even went to discussing how there's only 2 African Americans that live in the whole complex. And then they even went to discuss some other African Americans that live further away. How the police officer now informing them how they ran up in there and got drugs out the house and all this other stuff. I didn't know it was okay for police officers to just willy-nilly discuss cases with any and everybody. Did not know that. Did not know that. He even showed them the video that Mr. English sent them. He even called Mr. English on speakerphone in the video on the phone. But I will say the officer did state, wow, Gregory McMichael and Travis McMichael was standing right there in the video. Lily, stop yelling. While they were standing there, Gregory McMichael and Travis McMichael, they continued, he stated in front of them and the other officers, he never took nothing from the property. In all the videos, he never took nothing. He never destroyed anything. His words, plundering around. That's all he do is plunder around. That's when they went to discussing how Travis had a gun stolen out of his truck. And so forth. The officer discussed that he knew one of the homes when you first come in, the guy got some tools stole from him in his truck, but they already had suspects in that robbery because it was on video and it was a white couple in a car. So, yeah. All this is being discussed on the video at that time. But their mindsets, their feeling on the black people in their community was very much on display in this video. Very much so. So, after that officer testified, after the defense questioned him, which to me, I mean, I don't know what they were trying to accomplish from their questioning, but they was pretty much just asking if again, like I said, I think they trying to use these officers for a defense experts for use of force or defending yourself type of situation. He asked the officer why did he have his gun out in the video. The officer said he had his gun out to protect himself and his other officers because they was told by dispatch that the gentleman may have been carrying a weapon, but they wasn't sure. And this is because that's what Travis McMichael told the 911 caller. So after they asked him that, they also asked him if civilians had the right to arm themselves to protect themselves. And his answer was yes, to defend their own property. So then that's when the counselor come back and said, well, any property. He said, well, yes, but... So on recross examination, the state came back and asked him, do he believe that in any shape or form Ahmaud Arbery would have known that someone was calling the police on him and that they were on their way? He said no. So she also asked him, how long was he spending at the property each time he was there? He said just a couple of minutes, a few minutes, not long at all. They also tried to ask him if he had a routine that he know of, and I think the reason they was asking that was because of the simple fact that he stated in the video that when he came from the house, he always went down this one particular street that was across from the house. Every time on the video, this is what he did. So I think that's the other reason they asked that question on recross examination. So the next agent up that testified was Agent Seacrest. Now, Agent Seacrest, he is the agent that the GBI, which is the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, when they took over the case after nothing happened for months, because the incident happened February 23rd, but no charges or any real investigation happened until May, was it May? Let me double check to make sure, because I don't want to be lying. Yeah, May. No real investigation or arrest happened until May. So, he did an interview with William Brody Bryant, and in his interview with him, he actually drove to his house and did a drive-through with him on what he did. His statement to Seacrest was completely different than any statement he made to any of the other officers. It was completely different. He denied hitting them. He never fully outright denied hitting him with the truck, but he did not emphasize it the way he did in the earlier interviews. In this interview, he just kept saying he really never got close enough to him to actually run him over, or he just angled his truck in his direction. He used wordings like that, not like he did with the other officers in the beginning. Not like that at all. So that's basically what he was testifying to. And his attorney, Mr. Goff, got up to do the cross-examination for that. And this is his first time doing it. Oh, Lord, I wish it was his last. That man on that stand tried his hardest to get the agent to state the only reason that William Brody Bryant even cooperated with him was because he believed he was a witness. He hadn't done anything wrong. And that the agent tricked him. And that the agent was basically telling him what he wanted him to tell him during the drive-thru. But it's all on tape. It's all on tape. It was crazy. They showed the video of the drive-thru, but of course he didn't want to play the whole thing, but they also had the transcripts for the video that the jury got to have and that they read during the interview. But I almost died laughing when he said, is there anywhere throughout the cam video in the interview my client directed you on where to go? And he said, yeah, literally through the whole interview. On every page is there. Like, what kind of question was that? Anywho. That was the last person to testify. So, from that testimony, that ended this Friday, which is the 12th. I'm recording this. I'm gonna post this Sunday on the 14th, but this is the update for the whole week. So this is what happened Monday through Friday for this trial. Now, if you ain't heard by now, you should have, unless you live under a rock or you just don't care about this particular trial. I don't know. But Mr. Goff, Attorney Goff, one of the defense attorneys, and he is on the team for William Brody Bryan. Well, he made some rather very bold, if you ask me, bold and ignorant. I'm not going to be as nice as everybody else. It's ignorant and bold comments that he made during the trial when he stood up to basically protest the fact that Reverend Al Sharpton was there in the trial. And I'm going to go ahead and give you that video so you can hear his word from word for yourself right on this side, right here.
My understanding, while I was cross-examining Investigator Lowry yesterday, is that the Right Reverend Al Sharpton managed to find his way into the back of the courtroom. I'm guessing he was somehow there at the invitation of the victim's family in this case. And I have nothing personally against Mr. Sharpton. My concern is that it's one thing for the family to be present. It's another thing to ask for the lawyers to be present. But if we're going to start a precedent, starting yesterday, we're going to bring high-profile members of the African-American community into the courtroom to sit with the family during the trial in the presence of the jury, I believe that's intimidating, and it's an attempt to pressure, could be consciously or unconsciously, an attempt to pressure or influence the jury. Obviously, there's only so many pastors they can have. And if their pastor's Al Sharpton right now, that's fine, but then that's it. We don't want any more black pastors coming in here, or other Jesse Jackson, whoever was in here earlier this week, sitting with the victim's family, trying to influence a jury in this case. But I think the court can understand my concern about bringing people in who really don't have any ties to this case other than political interests. And we want to keep politics out of this case.
Well, I will tell you that I noticed him once and that was it. And the fact that nobody else even noticed that he was in here means that everybody complied with this court's rulings on sitting in this courtroom and listening to the evidence. I don't hear a motion, and I will tell you this, I'm not going to blanketly exclude members of the public from this court.
He called himself apologizing the next day after his comments, and that apology that wasn't even no sincere apology. If it was sincere, he wouldn't started off the apology with, I was asked by someone at the court to apologize because I may have offended some people. That's not a real apology when it started off like that. And that's how he had started off. The rest is irrelevant at this point to me. The judge made sure he spoke up to say, not the court itself did not ask you to do anything. He spoke up about that. And he said, well, no, the court did not. Yeah. So I don't know if a worker at the courthouse, but I'm willing to almost bet money it was probably the other defense lawyers Because, honey, they got out there and spoke to those reporters so quick to let them know they did not feel the way he felt at all. Now, they pretty much been sticking together on all kinds of objections and going on. But that one, oh, honey, they distanced themselves from that man so quick you wouldn't even think they all still sitting at the same table. Because they is. They distance themselves real quick. But I don't understand mankind sometimes. I don't. I really don't. But watching that video of the police officers in the McMichaels hunting for Ahmaud Arbery was very disturbing for me. Very disturbing. They had no qualms about the languages they were using towards black people and the fact that they're on there saying black boy. They called him so many black boy. He was never a man. He was never anything outside of black boy. Seriously, I mean, you would have thought he committed some type of serious crime the way they were trying to hunt him down. And obviously they felt burglary was so serious that they had the right to hunt him down with a gun and shoot him. Because that's what happened in the end. And I really love to know if Officer Rash feel that maybe he should not have been having these type of conversations with the McMichaels that he did. Hindsight 2020 at this point, right? I wonder if he think about that. If he think about maybe he should have emphasized harder, like the boy haven't committed a crime, so we don't need all you out here trying to hunt him down. Maybe that should have been emphasized on that type of level. But he did emphasize that he never deputized either one of them or anything like that. So, yeah, I don't think they agreed with the message that the McMichaels used. But I have to say, I don't think they disagreed in the mentality that McMichaels have. And that's a problem. Right along with their actions. Period. That's how I see the whole situation. Because this young man is dead and gone all because he was plundering around a property. Not even often enough to feel like he's stalking the property. No, not often enough for that. And all of this off of the fear. Fear. Because of someone's skin tone. Just sad. Can you hold on 1 second for me? Hold on. If you made it to the end of my video, thank you. Please come again. And do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Have a lovely day. Mwah.
I swear I give you my tomorrow. Forever and now, I'll never bring you sorrow.